What is going on, Swoopers? Welcome back to another Squawk with Swoop. I'm here with special guest Peter Helliar, I'm a long-time fan personally. He's a long-time Collingwood fan. Pete, thank you so much for joining me, mate.
I'm a long-time Swooper as well. Luke, I've followed you for a while now. The kids follow you, so you got brand recognition in our house. And I'll just start by saying I think you do a great job, mate.
Thank you.
I think Collingwood deserves a page like that from a fan, and I love the way you keep it positive and your engagement. And I get a lot of my news and goss from the page as well. So
thank you
very much for that.
Cheers. I'll drink to that, definitely.
It's all perspective. We're drinking the same glass. I'm just a little bit closer to the camera. We'll say that.
Thank you for those kind words, mate. It means a lot. Look, I think we'll kick into it more about we'll start with your sort of history with the Pies and how you came to be. Is it the classic, parents were Collingwood supporters and you kind of just grew up with it, or?
Yeah, pretty much. My dad in particular was Collingwood. My mum was Essendon, but she basically became a Collingwood supporter and now loves the club. I mean, kind of hates Essendon now, to be honest. We have one. I'm one of four. I go to the footy every week with my dad.
Yep.
My brother, my younger sister, my kids, my nephew. He's a very
family affair.
Very much a family affair, and we love it. And my older sister, she back for Essendon, so she kind of somehow got the scape. We got cousins. We're very much Collingwood Essendon, mainly across the board with cousins, and so Anzac Day is always a very big occasion.
Of course,
we meet in the car park and have a few beers and a bit of a barbecue beforehand. And if Essendon win, we have to go back and shake their hands and say, you're the better team. And if Collingwood win, the Essendon supporters seem to disappear, which is strange. Don't always make it back to the car. So Dad barracks for Collingwood. His dad, my granddad, was Hawthorn actually, so I could have been a Hawthorn supporter, but he was working as a bookie and running a grocer. So my dad's uncle took him to the footy, and he was a Collingwood supporter, so he became a Collingwood supporter.
And that's how it was.
And that's how it was. And I'm not sure. I reckon you might be the same. Sometimes in your quiet moments, you just think, I'm so bloody glad that I inherited this club.
Yeah, it does get like that. And it's the same thing. It's kind of like a sliding doors moment where my parents weren't big football fans and my auntie was, and she happened to have a friend who was Collingwood, and that's how I got into it. And now she's a Carlton supporter because she married a Carlton supporter. So
right.
it's a bit.
I married a Collingwood supporter. I did my due diligence.
Easy, that's easy.
He's always very keen to point out to people that I was a Collingwood supporter before we met. I didn't change.
But it's always a bit of a family affair. Look, with your history with the Pies, and you've obviously seen them since you were young. How does these last 2 years under Craig McRae feel to you? Because personally, this is the most fun I've had since about excluding the 2010 Premiership. 2011 was a fantastic year besides the loss, but that whole season was really good, and I'm having more fun than I was now than I was then.
I mean, 2011 was obviously great fun. We only one team beat us. They had to beat us 3 times in the Cats, sadly. But there's obviously this other thing going on at Collingwood at the moment, which is that we have Ted Lasso coaching us, and the positivity and bringing the club into a new age. I think what has been forgotten in some of this was how fun 2018 was, and how fun Bucks. You see Adam Simpson kind of keep his job over at West Coast, and listen. The proof is probably in the pudding, and it's hard to argue, that they pulled the right rein. It was obviously a very hard rein to pull. But I was a massive Bucks fan, and I thought 2018 was a really fun year. That was the most fun year I'd had for a long time, I thought. And there were a lot of great stories. If we had won that premiership, two minutes away from the greatest day of my life, with the whole family in the stands. And if you had Mason Cox and a whole bunch of stories. That's what's great about grand finals. You hear all, because the journos go to work and you start hearing about all the stories behind the players and what they've gone through. But obviously Mason Cox was a pretty public story. But there was a lot of that was a fun year, and there's a lot of positivity around Bucks. The cheer squad and the banner ripping and then doing that. There's a lot of so. It hasn't been a complete flip but it's just been a refresher. It's not just a coach. I think I'm a massive Eddie fan. but I think not having the noise that could bring, is it the difference between us finishing first or 10th? No. Or even 4th? No. But is it better that we don't, the club's not having to either deal with headlines that, maybe unwanted? Yeah, of course, it's better than not better. As amazing stuff as Eddie has done, and there's part of me that thinks his role's not over at Collingwood, and his role's probably ongoing, So incredibly grateful for them and for Mick. But there is a feel-good factor around Collingwood at the moment, based on what you hear from the coach, from the players, and the way they play. It's just been incredible. I mean, I drove to the Sydney prelim last year with my sister. My older brother was booked a trip to Bali after he lost 2 in a row. I think it was against the Dogs and the Tigers before he went on the 11 zip run. So he wasn't there. But we drove up, and my wife said to me, what if they lose? And I said, well, there's a very good chance we're going to lose. We're playing a very good team on their home deck. Prelims are hard to win. There's a very good chance, we will lose, but there's a good chance we'll win. But if we do lose, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to applaud the team, and in my mind, I'll at least be thanking them for the year, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, it was a bit heartbreaking in the end, but were you there?
Yeah. So me, Dad, and my brother, who's not into football, drove up, exactly right. That game it could have been anything. Going to the SCG is not always where you want to play. Yeah. But, and then for everyone to stand up right at the end, that was probably one of the best things I saw last year.
I've never seen anything like it. A team that's just lost the prelim and the Collingwood chant drowning out the Sydney theme song was pretty special.
It was.
And then the players to recognise it, I think meant something, for them and for the crowd as well. And that was special.
Yeah, no, that was definitely one for the memory books. And you are, even though we did have an 8-hour drive back or however long it was with the loss, you kind of take. And I remember tweeting that I was just so proud. Like 1 point loss, it sucks, right? Yeah. But I was just so proud of what they were able to achieve just that season when people just had us bottom 4 again, and even though they didn't have us in the top 8 this season, but what Craig McRae was able to instill, and I've said it to whoever would listen, that his teachings and his when you're talking to the press and all those sort of Ted Lasso-isms that he comes out, has made me a better person with just what he says. He's just, and it just changes the way of thinking. So if it's changing the way some supporter in Craigieburns thinking, you can only imagine what it's doing in the room where he's got 44 guys just listening to his every word, and he's a winner. He's been there before, against us obviously, but he's been there before, and he just celebrated, or just was in the Hall of Fame for Brisbane, and 20 years later he could beat them for a premiership again.
Well, I mean, let's hope so. I had the pleasure. We have a Collingwood group called the Fungs, PHUNGS, and it's some media types and some players, ex-players. So you got a lot of the 2010 kind of guys, Swanee, Benny Johnson, a lot of those guys. Heater has joined more recently. Scotty Cummings is in there, Joel's, and then you got Matty Preston, myself, Tommy Little, Merrick Watts, Barry Cassidy, Santa Chalaro. Like a weird Matty Dellavedova has been, kind of a random bunch of people, and we all get together, whoever can make it, and Maxie, who's Nick Maxwell's a big part of it as well. He organised a surprise for us. We had it just on the eve of the season. He goes, "I got a bit of a surprise," and we sit down for dinner, and Fly walks in, and we're playing Geelong on the Friday night, and this is Monday or something, or it was a Sunday actually, and I just worked my way, because I got there a bit later than everyone else. So I just worked. I was at the end of the table. I was like, "Fuck, I had to do this." I had to go. I was on the project as a guest actually. This is I'd already left, but I said, "Shit, I should have put it." And I just worked my way. Eventually, I was sitting next to him and just loved listening to him. You're absolutely right. I mean, he's a qualified teacher, and that comes through. And he told me, he said, they did a thing where I think they almost walked every step around the MCG. You know, every up the grandstands, up the southern stand, up all the stands. They did every step of the MCG. And his philosophy was, this year, you know, people know we're good now. You know, we either take the lift or the escalator, or we take the stairs, and we need to take the stairs. You know, and that I was just like, I think we're going to be okay.
I think I remember him saying that on it might have been with Andy and Gazy on SEN or something, and I made a little clip about it. And it's just those little things that we can just take and run. Like who thinks of, you know, I think he said when he was talking to him, he said he was in London or something and everyone was taking the escalators and he decided to take the stairs.
Yeah.
It's like, that's it. That's where it started. Like,
yeah.
And it's just...
I mean, we have a coach that basically makes mixtapes for the, you know...
yeah.
For like, he doesn't outsource it. You know.
It's all...
He basically, I mean, I admire anyone, you know, yourself included. I'm not great with the technical stuff. I mean, I've got a podcast and I still don't know really how to upload videos, you know, like, and it probably suffers as a result. But and this, you know, this bloke who's, you know, I'm not sure how old is Fly?
He'd probably be in his late 40s.
So
20 years ago he won the premiership when he was probably in his late 20s. So I'd say about 40s.
Yeah. So he's basically around my age, and you know, he's cutting together some hot takes and some, you know, so yeah. I mean, I think he's going to be coached for a long time. You would think, if we're lucky enough. And I think the meeting of him and you know, Nick Dacos is, you just see that becoming a very special relationship over the years. And whether it happens this year or not, I'm pretty confident we will get at least one flag under the McRae Dacos era, including Josh. You know.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Like, we get to see these guys who pretty much started their Collingwood careers together.
Yeah.
And you know, Nick Dacos hadn't missed a game under Fly until he got that injury against that leg injury against Hawthorn. But speaking of the Dacoses,
by the way, I do feel sorry for Nathan Buckley.
one
he
year
could have
out.
had 1 year out.
One
He
year
could have
out.
said, just give me one more year.
He got
this
out.
prodigy on his way, and he was always going to be good. Whether we knew he was going to be as good as so early, and you know, in the Brownlow chance, who knows? But yeah, you can imagine.
He'd be bleeding. he'd be poor thing. But like the Dacoses, and you would have. I didn't really. I was born '92, so I really didn't see that early '90s era with Peter and stuff. So you obviously would have grown up with him.
Oh, mate.
And just seeing his two sons come out now, Darcy Moore as well. You would have seen, you know, the older senior Moore.
Peter,
Yeah, it's just like how does that make you feel as a supporter? Like seeing this Collingwood legacy just live on.
Yeah, it's Peter Dacos is my favourite Collingwood footballer of all time. Very few players can say they changed the game. Peter Dacos can say he changed the game. Nick and Josh may not. They'll be very good players.
Yeah.
I don't quite see at the moment how they would change the game. Hopefully they do. But Peter Dacos, you can't imagine it now, but kicking along the ground and making the ball twist and turn as a strategy, was unthinkable. You know. And now everyone does it, you know. Sometimes when they maybe shouldn't, but he was just magical to watch. And I was at the 1990 Premiership. I was 15. I was at the game, the greatest goal I've ever seen. The Mullane Brown Dacos reverse, you know, a banana almost along the ground from the wrong side at Waverley. I was at Victoria Park for a lot of his, you know, big games. Even in Carlton, the '84 final, it was '84, I think. At Waverley, where he kicked, I think, 7 or so. He was phenomenal. So to see, and I got to know him. I did the Celebrity Grand Prix one year, and with him and Sauce, and then obviously Sauce played for the enemy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, great guy, and got to know him. But you know, Dakes, I was just all over, because I wrote a poem when I was in like year 8, and it was I probably remember it. It was, I'm not sure all of it, but some of it was. I turned on I turned on the radio and listened to Eon, which is Eon FM.
Yeah.
And they were saying that Peter Dacos is a champion.
Good wordplay. Good.
It was good work. It was handy work. And my PE teacher happened to have a contact through, and I put a footy sticker on it. It's weird. It's weird. It's like, I was in year 8. It sounds like it's a work of a grade 3 3-year-old. And he I can't just say that for a bit, and he took it away. And a couple of days later, he came back with an autograph. And
No way.
So to hang out with Pete and become mates with him, he came to my 30th, and his wife's Colleen, who is a brilliant woman. Like I see football fans, and rightfully see Peter in what Josh and Nick does, and Peter Dacos is one of those guys that he has no idea that he's Peter Dacos. He's very humble, and he's he doesn't talk anything up. But I also see Colleen in the kids, like in those two boys. They are the way they are as young men. Yeah. I can see the upbringing that they've had. One of the most surreal experiences I had was Pete rang me. And I've had a few weird experiences, like, Bobby Skilton brought over his grandkid to meet me because they were Strawny, all kind of Strawny related. And he said they're big fans. I think it was after a Legends game. I think I was probably still Strawny. But even more than that, so Peter Dacos, Pete rings me and says it's Josh's birthday on Wednesday, on the weekend. Would Strawny be able to come over and give him a surprise? So I said, yeah, sure. So I go over, and I'm in Peter Dacos's, my childhood hero's bedroom, getting changed from my civvies into a uniform, the Collingwood uniform, to pretend I'm a Collingwood footballer. What is going on? And I go out and I did a Strawny, and they had great fun with it, so one of the most surreal moments I've had, and so to see, Nick's kind of taken to AFL football really quickly, and the word was very big on him as far as, we all heard reports about him going up against Rowell and Anderson, 3 years younger and being best on, and I saw him after the 18 loss at the function that night, and he was behind me, and we were having a chat, and I said, mate, how far away are you? Because we're all a bit heartbroken. And he said 3 years. I was like, that feels like too far away. But I'm so proud and stoked for Josh, because he had to work harder for his spot in the team, and there was a time when a few Collingwood supporters, I'm sure, weren't sure if that was it was going to work out. And one on for I was worried. I was still hoping. I hadn't kind of, but I would say I was worried. I was kind of Josh he's still actually quite a small kid, like he's not big, but one pre-season, my brother, who's a bigger Collingwood nuffer than me even, and he went down to pre-season training, that kind of level. God bless him, he loves it, and he texted me and said, the standout was Josh. He looks fitter, bigger, and he's trading the house down, and that was the year. And I think that was maybe his third or fourth year, maybe.
Would that have been 2020? Was that when he kicked that goal against Sydney?
I reckon it was. Yeah. It was, and it was like so. And for him to be All-Australian, a few days after we were recording this, I'm just so stoked for him because, Nick came with a fanfare, and Josh came with some fanfare because he's got a famous name and he's a good player, but he was taking pick. He wasn't, he wasn't in the top 10 or anything. No, I think he went
50 in the 50s.
Yeah, and it's kind of connected father and son and all of that. But yeah, I'm not sure if there are any bids, that obviously not early anyway.
Yeah.
So for him to work as hard as he has, and to be the player, and when Nick's first game out, he stepped up and he had 36 touches and was just brilliant on the wing. He should have been All-Australian last year for mine.
Agreed.
I think that's one of my favourite recent Collingwood stories. Both of them were in there, but even more so, Josh.
Yeah, and you're right. He, like I said, I put my hand up because I was one of those guys. I think it was probably around the start of this channel where I was like, this might be. He was coming up to the end of his contract. I'm like, this might be Josh's last year if he doesn't. And then that 2020 season happened, and I was like, oh, thank God.
And you probably also had the two Brown boys, so we all kind of focused. Gavin Brown is again one of my favourite players. He had like ridiculous courage. Him and Glenn Archer are the two bravest people I've ever seen on the footy field, and they you were hoping they got going and come on, and Callum kind of would show bits, and then Tyler, I'd heard really good things about Tyler. He went to Marcelin. My boys had gone to Marcelin for a bit, and I had really big things that they were really excited about Tyler, and just we don't know the reasons, just doesn't work out. So the fact that there was like 3 or so father and son that were maybe not quite finding their feet, maybe made us worry a bit more about Josh. But yeah, so stoked.
And talking about father-sons, I posted today because I came up on my Twitter feed.
I saw it, Mickey McGuan's.
Yeah. 2025 draft, Thomas. Yeah. So there's high IQ, good foot skills apparently. So
it doesn't surprise you, does it? I mean, Mick is, he's been to a few of our groups, and he's a genius.
And he's coaching for Kilo, premiership coach, just back to back, and it's just crazy what he's been able to do. Let's talk about this game coming up. So, first final against Melbourne since I think it was 1989, where they smashed us.
Yeah.
It is going to be a final for the ages. I feel like it's going to be on par with the Geelong Collingwood qualifying final last year, which was probably one of the best games that I've seen besides a premiership, because that pressure was just insane. And Fly always says that we take it, we've qualified, so it doesn't matter where we finish, and now it's the second season. And I feel like that sort of mentality has been stuck with us, because we notched up first on the ladder for about 4-5 weeks.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt that coming through a little bit.
It's funny, and I agree. I feel like the fans have felt that, I think, we're in this kind of, this waiting bay, and if the fans are feeling it, possibly that if the players are feeling it 2% of that, that we've qualified, we're on top. Let's start the season. What gives me hope is the 2 best games in the last 6 or so games were against Port and Geelong, like 2 big games with big build-ups, and that's when we delivered.
Yep.
The Brisbane game, I think with 3 of our best players out, say what you like. Take 3 best players out of you
any team you're going to lose.
Yeah, you take 3, Lucky Neal, Josh Dunkley and Harris Andrews out of Brisbane, and we probably win.
You beat them.
It doesn't concern me that much. I know they were both teams were genuinely. After the Port Adelaide game, I saw Koshy a few days after that, and he said they were spent. That was a really taxing game. That Geelong game last year, that final, I saw Billy Brownless at the races a few weeks after the finish, and I'd kind of heard Dangerfield and maybe Zach Tui talk about that game being one of the most intense games they've ever played. The pressure they hadn't faced before, and Billy said to me, genuinely, he said they did not want to play Collingwood.
That's
genuinely, and that wasn't just they preferred not to play; they did not want to play him.
Yeah.
So that might make that 1 point loss to City hurt even more. But I mean, Geelong were red hot, so who knows?
Exactly.
Who knows? But this week, full disclosure, by the way, I got my dates mixed up. I thought the fight started last week, so I've got a gig.
No.
That I'm doing on Thursday, which is runs for the time. I'm emceeing. It's a corporate gig, and so no complaints. It's I'm lucky to be in my position. But,
but still.
But I had basically cancelled, no work on any weekend in September.
Yep.
We don't go away.
No.
And so when the final game, I was like, not Thursday, not put the Pies on a Friday night, please.
Yeah.
And everyone started to say it's going to be Thursday. So I'm in a position where do I try not to find that result? It's going to be hard to do that.
It's going to be really hard.
I've even come up with a plan. If I don't find out the result in the room, like nobody yells out, go Pies, I'm going to have an eye mask that I put on to go home, put my earphones in. I'll be coming home basically through probably the traffic. There'll be scars out the window. So you will see. But anyway, the actual game though, it's going to be really interesting because the last time we played them on Queen's birthday, I obviously got really good form against them over the years. But I think there's 2 different teams playing. There's there's no Degoe, no Jamie Elliott. I think you mentioned before we started, we've got a Ginnivan and
Ginnivan.
And
there was no Bobby Hill, so
they had no Clayton Oliver.
Yeah, and I think that was the only player that they missed that game. So they had pretty much a full stat team. Yeah.
The other thing you would probably say that the way they've changed is the Grundy gone.
Yep.
Max is a better player now, which is I feel so. I think all Collingwood supporters are feeling for
100%, yeah.
for Brody Grundy. He's a great bloke, and I really hope he finds. I mean, he'll be at a different club next year.
Yeah.
You would think, and he walks into any team basically. You know, just don't play well against us. they're the rules. I didn't see him. He lives in the same area as I do, and I was crossing the road, funnily enough, to a bottle shop. No judgment, please. And I was wearing the old retro yakka.
Yes, yep.
And I hear somebody yell out, from a car, Pete. And I didn't look around because I thought, I'm trying to cross the road and distracted, and they're kind of, I assume they were like driving past. And I get to the other side and I hear again, Pete. And I look around, it's Brody Grundy giving me, this is after he's been traded, and he sent me a text message saying, you had to be wearing that T-shirt, didn't you?
Oh, it's funny.
But, so I think they're, sadly, in a way, Gawn is in better form than he was, back then. So I think there's different enough things going on that both teams may take things, the Oliver and the Gawn setup, Melbourne will feel confident in.
Yep.
We should feel confident that De Goey and Jamie Elliott makes us a better team, but we don't have Nick Dacos.
Yep.
Sorry,
just quickly, do you think he won't play? Yep.
I don't think he. I mean, I hope he does. In my mind, I'm not thinking he will.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything.
I think elimination he would have played, but we still got a second chance. So.
It's interesting they say that because this isn't an elimination. We do have a second chance, but the reward is big.
Yeah.
The reward is massive in this game to avoid going to Brisbane.
Far out.
So
that's true. I haven't even thought of it that way.
Yeah. If he's fit enough to play, then play him. I mean, I think you got to protect him. But if he's fit, I think you're playing.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why the Thursday night maybe it could have come down to Saturday night being the difference. Who knows? I mean, it's great news that we're talking the fact that he might play because that you assume makes him pretty certain to play. Hopefully, 2 weeks after that in the prelim. I mean, that's the ideal thing. I mean, there was talk of the sub. I'm not sure if they're really entertaining that. I'm not sure if he either plays or he doesn't.
Yep. You wouldn't waste him on not waste because that's not the correct terminology. But you wouldn't leave a Ferrari in the garage until.
Well, exactly. And a sub could be on in the second minute mark of the first quarter.
Exactly right.
So,
what's the point?
If he's right to play, then he's right to play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, are you feeling confident? So. With this Melbourne game, are you feeling more confident now in our system and our processes going into finals than you were last year? Because I know last year was a bit of a roller coaster in the way that they were just changing the game style every single week, but now we kind of know what we're getting.
Yeah, I feel. I mean, last year just as a feeling, it was. I heard McRae say it, and I was feeling the same way that it was the unknown. It was like we weren't sure if we were winning these close games, and people were saying, they've won another close one, and if we'd lost 2 of those games, we would have finished. But it didn't matter. We were there, but we weren't completely sure, and maybe didn't have complete confidence in that we could go all the way. Maybe I don't know. My attitude last year was almost felt like a free hit. Now that's probably the wrong way to look at it because once you're there, you're there, and you're there to win it. And Carlton and St Kilda and Sydney and GWS, we're feeling that way, no doubt. Even though, people make it all about the top 4, but I'm concerned about the defence. But once Nathan Murphy, and I think Billy Frampton has been an inspired pickup.
Yep.
He may not play a game in September, but he's been very important, important for us, and great to have in case he goes down. Jeremy Howe. Swingman. I saw David King spruiked that idea on with you, and that's great versatility to have.
Yep.
Darcy, obviously, all Australian centre half back. It'd be interesting to see how he plays Curnow. If we come up with I pick Curnow, but knowing I guess Melbourne's a very different setup, isn't it?
It is, because they got now Frist. Fritsch?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Fritsch is back. I'm going to leave that in because that's pretty funny. Fritsch is back. And then they've got, well, they lose Malcolm with that ACL, unfortunately, which is just, you don't want to, you wouldn't wish it upon your worst enemy. But they lose Malcolm, who has been in great form for them.
Yeah, it's been important.
Yeah.
Because he's also getting a bit of the ball, kicking some goals, but also playing almost as a a defensive forward at times as well, taking being assigned to particular players to help shut them down.
Yeah, so that really messes them up a little bit. But they do have a bit of a mix where even Petrarca can go forward. We've seen Gawn try to do it. If they bring Grundy back after, I think he kicked 3 or something goals against with Casey. So they've got a lot of questions about them as well, and they're in really good form leading into.
They really are. They're arguably, maybe not even arguably, they're probably in better form than we are. But like we say, you reset.
Yep.
I'm feel good that, like I said, our best 2 performances in the last 6 or so weeks have been in the big games, Port Adelaide and Geelong. I thought, like I said, the Brisbane game were good. The Gawn. You do wonder if Gawn drifts forward, is allowed to drift forward too many times. I mean, Darcy Cameron's going to have to be on his game and make sure he gets down there with him. And Petrarca is tricky, but we've got some tricky matchups as well.
Yeah, 100, and that's not to discount. Like you mentioned Jamie Helliar before, who we missed on that Melbourne game, and he has been a barometer for us these last 6 weeks. He's been our number 1 rated player. He's kicked career high, something 40. Or close to 40 goals. I think he's kicked 36 goals or something. He's kicked his career high, and he's been playing for so long as well. With all the injuries and stuff, and he's finally coming into his own now. It's just going to be really interesting. Like I keep probably every 6 hours, I'm like, yeah, I'm good, I'm confident, and then like, no, actually, far out, I'm pretty nervous. Then like, actually, no, I'm confident. It's just, and that's how it's going to be until Thursday at what time's the game finished? 10:30. You know what I mean? It's going to be crazy.
But I'm still on stage.
True.
I'm pretty zen about it at the moment, I have to say. I have slowly tried to convince myself or remind myself that nothing I think has any bearing on the games. I can come out and say the Pies will win the flag, and it's not going to. They may or they may not, but it's got nothing to do with me saying that. I do get very superstitious.
Yep.
So I'm trying to remain zen. Whatever happens, happens. I do want to desperately win one soon. And this is a team that's, I think, deserving. They've been the best team over, probably the last, arguably, year and a half even. The amount of games, they all stack up. But Jesus, some selection issues. I mean, Ginnivan plays. I think he has to.
Yep.
You play the 2 rucks. I think against Gawn, maybe you probably have to
kind of wear him down, especially if Grundy doesn't play.
Yeah, I do suspect Markov or Hoskin Elliott. I'm a big fan of both.
Yeah.
Hoskin Elliott can be a bit of a whipping boy sometimes with some supporters, but I think he's more important than people realise.
Yeah, he's good. He's a great role player.
Yeah, and I think he connects sometimes. He connects, the back half sometimes, with Marks down at the half back or sometimes at the half forward, he does get back and help out with defence as well. Sometimes he is the guy who gets back to get a punch.
Yep.
To rush it behind. So, and Markov has been. I mean, I'd probably have to go Markov out of those 2, I think.
Yeah, interesting.
And maybe Elliott as the sub, but I mean McCreary. The 3 guys who are coming back. There's no question. It's not like okay. So you do need to
make
lose 3 players out of that, and I don't know where they come from, but I suspect it's either going to be Hoskin Elliott or Markov. And then it's, a Frampton obviously will come out.
Then Finn McRae probably comes out as
well. Finn McRae. Okay, so they're probably your 3. And I was, might have been on your site, but I was buoyed to hear that Finn McRae does seem a future at Collingwood.
Yes, I posted about that the other day, which is really good. He is our future mid.
I heard a rumour. Have you heard a rumour? I hope I'm not. And this is not anyone at the club or anyone, but I thought I heard a rumour that Sidey might actually be retiring.
Maybe after a premiership this year.
Yeah.
Like I think he's contracted for next year.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't. Yeah, like I wouldn't.
Maybe post
put my
injury,
trust
there
in.
might be. He hasn't quite been the same. Hopefully, the week off serve him well. I mean, I love him as a bloke and as a
Yeah.
servant of the club. So I'm not pushing him into retirement. But naturally, if he was to retire, you got I think a ready-made replacement. Even though he's a 300 game player, that's big shoes. But but glad to see the Finn actually kind of got some game time. So yeah, and you win that game, and you go into a prelim, and you get Nick Dacos back, and who knows who we play, but you lose, and it sets up a big game against the old enemy.
Against probably Carlton if they beat Sydney. So you don't, any way you sort of look at it, and if you win that one, you end up playing at the Gabba. So we do have to take it a week at a time, and we just got to beat Melbourne. I don't want to play Carlton in an elimination final, but I'd rather play them in an elimination final than in the grand final, because I'd rather get kicked out the second week than in a grand final by them. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, that's true.
They would not. They wouldn't. They would hold it against me or us for the rest of our lives.
I know, and it feels like we should be celebrating round 22 of last year for the rest of our lives. And I think if they were to beat us in the grand final, or even maybe in a final, that kind of loses currency.
It goes out the window. It'd be remiss of me not to ask: is Strawny going to come out of retirement and how about the boys with just cheering him on?
You might see. So he did appear on actually with Josh with the
I saw that
on Nova in Melbourne a week or so ago. I believe there's talk that he's trying to set up his OnlyFans account, which may or may not be a joke. And you might see him pop up. Fly said to me early in the year, he goes, I have to get Strawny down because he knows I've got his number. But he hasn't. It hasn't happened as yet. But he's always, I think he was feeling quite confident that Fly would, being the outside thinker that he was, that he would actually probably give him a game. But
that's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah. He's not on the list, but as Strawny says, nobody checks the list.
No, I can't wait for his. Make sure you link me to that OnlyFans when he drops it.
I will do. In fact, I'm pretty sure he will be on grand final leave at the MCG. I haven't got all the details yet, but he will be appearing in like a panel with, I think, Jack Revolt. Like a couple of like proper legends.
Awesome.
Around the MCG, I think they got some kind of thing going on down there. So if you're looking for him to do grand final leave, come say good day to Strawny.
Good lead up to the Collingwood Premiership, which is really nice.
Well, I hope so. Somebody said to me, ABC Radio, they said, Matt Preston would love to. He's going to be at the MCG on grand final morning. He'd love to chat to you. In Collingwood, and I said, I'm not making any commitments. If Collingwood happen to be playing in the grand final, I'll happily join. But let's not booking anything in just yet. Yeah.
Exactly. Look, it's like I said, week at a time. But I'm feeling pretty confident that this is a year.
Yeah, I just get to. For me, it's. I don't know. I feel like if we come to play, and as a Collingwood supporter over the years, I've always felt like we do come to play in big games. But I think this group, maybe in particular, like I said, the games where we've come out to play the last 6 weeks have been the big games.
Yep.
The Port, Geelong, Brisbane. We didn't win Brisbane, but and we'll probably get this a bit flat. My kind of understanding, I think Fly started to play it down, but I think they did do a bit of a training load at one point.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Which. I got a PT, don't laugh. And he's involved. He's been involved with Melbourne, and he was involved with North Melbourne this year. And he saw him and said that's what he reckons has happened.
Interesting.
And he's spoken to me over the years about these loads that they put in. They basically, and because they were a few games on top, they could afford to probably go.
Exactly right.
Let's do a load, which you may have a couple of weeks of being a bit sluggish, and then you get the benefits obviously in the final. So. I'm hoping that's true. Fly said something. Fly was asked about, and he goes, "Yeah, there's been a bit of that, but we've been doing it all year." Which, I didn't quite understand, and the journo didn't follow it up because that doesn't really make sense. The idea is you do a load at a particular time, and then
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if he was deflecting or if there's something I'm not understanding about it. So that's maybe some cause for optimism that and also coming off that Port game, I think we were a bit buggered. The Hawks are probably if you're 2% off, you're gone in this competition.
Exactly right.
And I think there's probably thinking things will just work for them against Hawthorn.
Yeah.
Hawthorn changed a lot of people's perceptions from that game onwards, I think.
Yeah, they had a really good... I really enjoyed Hawthorn this season, definitely. Look, Pete, thank you so much for coming on, mate. I really appreciate it so much. I've been a big fan since Skid House Rove Live. Me and my brother, we've just been, big fans and stuff. Where can we find you? Like, I know you got a podcast.
Yeah, I got a podcast called You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. It's a movie podcast, and I basically chat to movie lovers about classic movies they've never seen. And they watch the movie before they come in, and we talk about it. So the one that went out this week was with Poe, MasterChef fame, and she'd never seen Moonstruck with Cher and Nick Cage. But we've done like Sam Pang had never seen The Castle, Kitty Flanagan hadn't seen The Matrix. We've done, and it's all different kinds of films. Sometimes there's older films. Darren Hayes did Singing in the Rain. I just recorded one this morning, which will go out in a couple of weeks with Sean McAuliffe, who had never seen 8.5, the Fellini kind of classic, and which I'd never seen as well. So that's a fascinating chat. Some episodes are more intense and more kind of deep dive than others. Okay. Greg Larson is a great comedian. Next week he hadn't seen Jerry Maguire.
Oh well. Yep.
Sometimes they like the film, sometimes they don't. But generally they do because they're kind of classic movies and they're classics for a reason. But like Greg didn't quite connect with Jerry Maguire, and it's still a really fun episode.
Yeah.
So that's You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. I'm basically wrapping up my stand-up tour, Deconstructed Origami in Hobart tomorrow, which will be the weekend I think just gone when this goes out. So I'll be starting a new show.
Awesome.
I'll be on Taskmaster next year at some point. I think the first half of next year.
Hell yeah, I love Taskmaster.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's
really we had so much fun. So it's me, Aaron Chan, who's very funny.
So funny.
So funny. So you would have seen him on Fisk. Reece Nicholson, who's hilarious and brilliant bloke. Mel Buttle, who's fantastic. If you're looking for somebody for laughs to follow on Instagram, Mel Buttle. She does his mum character, and it's just Lynn who's just exploded, and she's hilarious. Just in a dressing gown, looking out the window, checking out the neighbours, and Conchetta Cristo, who's not a household name, but she will be. She's on Triple J, and she's hilarious. And
I listened to her.
Oh right,
yeah. In the mornings. Yeah.
Breakfast. Yeah. She's great. So we had a ball. You go do the tasks, and then you kind of, a few months later they get you in the studio and you're watching, and you don't know what everybody else got up to and how they,
Right, so that's how they do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really fun. And I basically came out. I did I'm a Celebrity, did the Jungle, and came back and basically was back for 2 days and went to do, because they film it somewhere else in New Zealand. The studio's in Melbourne, but the tasks are in New Zealand. I must say the hardest thing about being in the Jungle was not knowing the footy scores. That was painful.
How was that, just quickly?
Oh man, it's great. Yeah. It was really great.
It looked good.
Yeah, great.
I caught a couple episodes.
Great bunch of people. Really great bunch of people. All become really close and all in touch every day on the WhatsApp group. There's conversations going on, organising catch-ups, and it was really good. Like I said, I had a little. Brownie's left the show now, so I had a little system with Brownie that Chris Brown. That if I saw him and I knew like there is a game had been played, that I would give him a look and he'd give me the thumbs up or down. The first one was Brisbane, round 3.
Right.
And I looked at him. He must have known the score, so he went over to his phone and just says, setting up cameras, and he comes back and he goes. And then he goes, your face. He goes, you just went into a zone where he was like. And then the second one I think was the St Kilda game, and I wasn't going off to see Brownie or Julia, but Adam Cooney was, great bloke, and I said, mate, just because there's cameras filming all the time, so I didn't want to get Brownie into trouble or So I said, I've been trying to get Brown in the barrack for Collingwood, so just remind me that there's a game today, or games that's been played, or game today, and he goes, and I said, he's going to score. And he goes, okay. He comes back, and I said, any news, footy news, and he goes, no, they lost. I said, and I had a feeling beforehand that he might lie. So I said, how much by? And he goes, I don't know, but they lost. I was like, okay. I said, okay, early in the season, to be honest, doesn't, as long as hopefully they all got through fit and,
Yeah.
And then a few hours later, I was about to go to bed, and I said, night, ads, So I'm just going to probably go and bloody think about Collingwood losing, how we lose to St Kilda, and probably stay up for the next 3 hours. And he goes, I forgot to tell you, I was only joking. They won by 16 points or whatever it was, whatever it was in the end. And then I came out on Anzac, the day after Anzac Day.
Yeah. Jeez, that was a good game too.
Yes, and they told me they actually told me the score as on air, and they told me all the scores. I didn't know. They didn't know that I knew, but Brownie knew, but nobody else did. And they told me that the Anzac score, and they said they went to half time. The other scores are just telling me that they said at half time, like 3/4 time, they were down by 27 points.
Yeah.
I'm like, strange that they're
Give me
me
that score.
the 3/4 time scores. I said, we haven't done it again, have we? And they said, but your Pies managed, and I was just like, how good is that? And you do so much kind of media press after you come out of the jungle. They've actually got you for hours afterwards. You go back, have an hour's sleep, you come back at 4 a.m. in the morning, you do breakfast radio, radio here, whatever it is. I just watched the last quarter like 6 times over there.
Jesus, that was. I was there with my dad. I think I cried on the final siren. That was incredible.
Yeah.
It just epitomises what everything that we've learned over the last year or nearly 2 years now with this team and what they can do. That, what I remember Fly at the start of his tenure saying that we don't care if we're 60 points up or 60 points down. We're going to fight until that final siren and
you'll play all the minutes.
That's it. And we've seen it, and that's what I'm just hoping that against Melbourne, they're just it's going to be more than a flick of the switch. It's going to be a whole different Collingwood that we see.
I have a fear that it'll be straight set. So but it's a fear that I don't think it's based on anything. I mean, maybe subconsciously it's based on the fact that we've lost some games more recently, but I think finals are a different beast.
They are,
and nobody knows it more than Fly and Justin Lepich and coaching staff, and also a lot of our players now, they've experienced finals campaigners. I think Tom Mitchell becomes, we get the worth out of Tom Mitchell.
That's when he'll go to work.
Finals. He will go to work, and I think, by the way, Tay Adams has been awesome this year. I think for him to accept a new role, when somebody said, Tay might go to half forward, I was like, is that going to work? And how does it fit in? Because we got Bo and we got Ginnivan and we got Bobby Hill. It's Tay. But I think he's been so good. And then when he's gone into the middle, to fix something, he's just a beast. And he's not Nick Dacos, but I think every premiership team needs those hard-edged beasts, and I think between Tay and Bruz and Geordie, we've got that, and we've got some silk now with Bobby Hill and Nick and Josh, and so
whenever we just mentioning those names, it gets me so bloody excited, and I wish. So we're recording this on Friday, and I wish it was Thursday already. One, to be over and done with the game, so I can stop worrying. But two, because I just need to see if everything that I've said these last 6 weeks on my reviews and previews of the games and stuff, that it's right, that it was just or some sort of self-preservation just for finals now, because we qualified 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
As soon as we beat Port, and then you could see the dip a little bit. So.
And like I said, supporters were definitely feeling it. This is. Even the Collingwood crowds were a bit quieter, over those weeks, I reckon. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Fly kind of even in his press conference, I think he's been great with the fans, and but to kind of make a point. We need we need you guys. So and no doubt that'll continue into next week, and they'll get that message home because there'll be more Collingwood supporters and Melbourne supporters next week.
Yeah.
And I think playing that Geelong game last year, it would be a good reminder to them. Like we would have that game, we beat anyone else.
Yes.
If we play like that. And I truly believe if we play like that on Thursday, we win.
Yep. So, what's your final tip for Thursday before we go?
Collingwood by whatever. Collingwood by 7.
Yep. Just over.
I'll
just
put,
over.
I'll put over the goal.
Yeah.
No. It's funny. My wife's auntie runs a footy tipping competition, which I finished third in this year. Actually, did tip better when I was in the jungle because I just did like a whole bunch of tips, and then I came out and I started moving backwards. But they've asked for like a grand final tip, like who's going to, for a prize I'll give out, and I've refused to enter it. Like I've just gone, I'm not making any tips.
You don't want to, moz yourself.
Although I thought maybe I'll just say GWS by 96.
Just to be safe.
Yeah, but yeah, who knows? I mean, I always find it funny, isn't it? Like it's like, yeah, we're a few days out now, and this time next week we'll know. We will basically know. We'll know. We'll be full of beans and loving our weekend, or we'll be a bit flat, and worried about playing the Blues or playing the Swans. A lot of Carlton fans are getting ahead of themselves. I'll say that.
Don't even get me started.
Don't underestimate the Swans though.
No.
There's always an upset. Quite often there's an upset in the first week of finals, and
let's hope it's Friday night.
Yeah.
Pete, thank you so much, mate.
Thanks,
I appreciate it so much.
No worries at all, mate.
We'll follow you. I'll put all the links down. All the links will be down below. Pete, thanks. Any final words? Camera's yours.
Go fucking Pies. Fucking let's go get it.
Let's go. Thank you. All right.